The barrier to entry to building a business has never been lower. The barrier to entry to making $1 million has never been lower. And the amount of distraction that's available has never been higher.
Welcome to The King Within, a podcast for men who seem to have it all, yet feel like they're losing what matters most. I'm Mike Salemi and I've been there. Successful on paper but disconnected on the inside. This isn't about grinding harder. It's about mastering your emotions, leading with calm strength, and rebuilding trust at home. Each week we dive into real stories and tools for becoming the man your family runs towards, not away from. Because you didn't build this life to lose yourself in it. This is The King Within. Let's do the work. There are men who talk about success, and men who have lived the full arc of it. Today I'm with my brother and mentor Mike Bledsoe, who co-founded Barbell Shrugged back when it was the #1 fitness podcast on YouTube and helped shape the early CrossFit movement. Mike and I go way back. I'm in his mastermind now, and every time we talk, it stretches how I see business, wealth, and freedom. We get into what happens when money comes fast, why most founders mistake risk for responsibility, and the deeper move from chasing income to creating freedom of time. If you've ever wondered what real wealth feels like, not just the number, but the nervous system piece that comes with it, this one's going to hit home. If it lands, please share it with a brother who's walking a similar path, and make sure you're subscribed to The King Within. Let's drop in.
Dude, so good to be here with you, brother. So good.
Yeah, good to have you.
Oh, dude. Every time I know I'm with you and with Ashley, it literally feels like it is like home. I was telling you, usually when I travel, I'm coming off this sinus infection, so excuse the depth of the voice right now. But sleeping here, I was like, man, usually when I travel, I do not sleep nearly as good as, of course, when I'm at home. And I've been waking up, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so grateful to be traveling. I mean, I've only been here for 3 days is the third day, and I've already lost my voice. So to come to a place that feels like home, that feels so just down-regulating and welcoming, yeah, I'm just so grateful to be here, man.
Nice. It's great to have you. Yeah, we tried to make the home as down-regulating as possible.
Yeah.
Nice. The word years ago, I was thinking about what kind of home I wanted to have, and the word sanctuary just came up. Like, oh, yeah, this is my sanctuary.
So this is the Bledsoe Sanctuary. Back where I'm from, we call it the Salemi Spa. So we got the Salemi Spa on the West Coast, Central United States. We got the Bledsoe Sanctuary. I love it. Tell me, what are you sitting on right now? Because last night I did my group call for the Grounded King, and I know you're getting me all set up with supplements, with freaking amazing coffee. What are you sitting on right now?
There's a PMF mat plus infrared plus crystals. So it's a higher dose mat. That's the name of the company. Ashley got it for me last month for my birthday.
Best ever.
She is really good at throwing parties and getting gifts. So being married to her is great for, my birthday. But yeah, it's got infrared, PMF. It's got a few different settings on the PMF, different frequencies. There's a frequency for down regulating. There's one for, it's supposed to match, the Earth's Schumann resonance. It's got one for creativity, another one for energy. And yeah, I've been sitting on it while I work every day, running some type of frequency a couple hours a day. I've noticed that there's less tension. Usually like hips, hamstrings might have a little tension in them if I sit for hours and hours a day while I work. And yeah, I haven't experienced that since I've been using it. So I guess it works. A lot of times people go, does it work? And I go, for what? But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Do you find a difference between the infrared and the PMF? Do you notice one? Do you do both all the time?
Yeah, but the infrared's always on. Like there's different levels of infrared, but I keep it pretty low because it just gets so hot so fast.
Your ass is on fire.
Yeah. We want to get pregnant. So not too much heat on the boys.
Yeah.
Keep the boys cool.
Yeah.
That's part of the fertility hack here. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard of guys like when they go in the sauna, putting in either like a cold pack or some type of like cool towel underneath their balls.
Yep.
That's true. Like if it gets too hot, man, that stuff will destroy all the sperm.
Yeah. It'll hurt their shape. The sperm have to be a specific shape to penetrate, through. That's what they say. I don't know. I'm not a spermologist, but
Dude, I love our conversations. One of which last night, and this will head into where I want to go today, was I knew, your days obviously in Barbell Shrugged and just how many just amazing people you got to interview. One of which we were talking about was Louis Simmons. And the wild thing is not only were you there multiple times, but I just saw the video of you and a few of the guys doing banded cleans at Westside Barbell, which is insane for those who aren't familiar. So walk us through, because then I want to talk about the mindset of where you were then, especially around money and your relationship to money. But tell me, how old were you at that time?
So this was pre-injury. There's no way I was done this after my injury. So this must have been 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, this was 12 years ago. I was probably 32 years old. Yeah. Yeah. Near the peak of my competing years. Yeah.
And you were with Barbell Shrugged. What else were you doing at that time professionally?
So yeah, 2014. So we had Barbell Shrugged. So I still owned a couple gyms. I had moved away, or I was in the process of moving from Memphis to San Diego. So I started my CrossFit gym in Memphis, Tennessee. It's where I grew up. And I started this CrossFit gym, and then I started different business projects over the years. And then in 2012, I started a podcast and YouTube channel, and I started making money online, way more money than I was making in my gym. And so I realized one day, I was in California, and I go, why don't I just live wherever I want to live? And I'd been stationed in San Diego when I was in the Navy, and I go, that was the best city. I enjoyed SoCal so much. So I decided to move there. So the gyms were taking care of themselves, kind of. Without my presence, I realized how that I actually needed to sell them instead of try to manage them from afar, because I'm not much of a manager anyway. And then not a manager at all, actually. I can lead. Managing day-to-day things, not my jam. And so I can do it for a period of time to get past a specific stage. And then once that stage hits, it's got to go to somebody else. But we started selling online training programs. And so we were running Barbell Shrugged, which is, I'm sure a lot of people don't know what it is, but it was a podcast for strength and conditioning, really popular in the CrossFit space. So we were selling online training programs. That was doing really well. So we were making, when I decided to move, that might have been making like $40,000, $50,000 a month.
Wow.
Fairly quote unquote passive. And then around that time also I had a lot of gym owners asking me for advice. I found myself on the phone multiple times a week giving business advice to gym owners. And I go, well, I'll just create another podcast called Barbell Business. So I started doing that. And within a few weeks of doing that, I go, let's just create a product. So we created a product on how to market your gym and all sorts of things. So we had two businesses there that were virtual. So we had the gyms. I really stopped collecting money from that. And it was just Barbell Shrugged training programs, Barbell Business programs on how to grow your gym. And I think at that time I'd played around. I'd had some mastermind events where I was holding retreats for business owners. And that turned into beyond just gym owners. That turned into people who own supplement companies. And some of the guys from Onnit, some of the executives on it ended up being part of that mastermind at one point.
Wow.
And so, they were going there to get some of their development. And so it wasn't just gym owners. It kind of morphed into something a little more than that. And that was going on at that time. There was other things that those businesses did 2-3 years later. But at that time, it was, a couple gyms, training programs, some business systems. And then my job was to show up and be crazy on camera with Louis Simmons on occasion.
Best ever. That's your mid-30s, let's say, more or less in your mid-30s. What was your mindset around creating wealth, or what did your mindset around wealth and money look like back then?
That's a good question, dude. I was insane.
On every level, from the trading level to business to
Relationships,
yeah.
everything. I was like, at the time I didn't feel very accomplished. On the outside in, people were, congratulating me, but I'm like, dude, I'm just getting started. Like I'm here to crush, So I was never happy with anything that I had or achieved. And so there were moments, I definitely had moments of appreciation. Don't get me wrong. There were moments where I was like, damn, this is fucking good.
I built this.
Yeah. Like I moved into a house at the beach and I'm sitting in my backyard in a jacuzzi in the beach, watching the sunset into the ocean. And my backyard was turned into a wildlife preserve, a lagoon. And I'm like, yeah, like this is fucking dope. But then work would start on Monday and the appreciation would totally, and the gratitude would totally vanish. And I'd get lost in, a lot of resistance and depression. And there were moments I'm laying in my house at the beach and like, oh, I hate my life. There was that kind of shit going on. Big waves. There was a point where I thought maybe I was bipolar or something. I'm like, oh wow, I'm like really high highs, low lows, and that wasn't the case. I think all those what are they called? My wife's a psychotherapist. I should know these words, but these labels, they're all mostly BS anyway. It's like it's just a way to whatever. I'm sure if I walked into a therapy office at one point, they would have said, yeah, bipolar. But if I walk in now, they'd be like, you're totally
normal.
You're totally great now. Didn't need to be put on any therapeutic drugs. But yeah, my mindset was like crush everything. I wanted everything. Like, I didn't want it wasn't that I didn't want anyone else to have anything. It's that I felt like if it was on the table, I could have it. And I wanted it. And so when it came to Barbell Shrugged, it was have the most popular fitness podcast on the planet. And we pretty much checked that box. I mean, every time I log
pretty much you did.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. You go into iTunes and we were ranked number 1 in the category in fitness and nutrition for like 5 years. Some of the top 10 would rotate around, by the day or whatever, but we had the most 5-star reviews. We had the most positive comments. And we were always in that circulation right there. And so we don't know what algorithm was being used. But yeah, and then we built, a couple 100,000 people on YouTube, which at the time was a big deal, maybe the equivalent of having 1 million now. And so I wanted to, keep crushing there. And then I wanted to expand into, like, my ego really wanted to be seen, to be respected in the business community.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like, it's so funny. It's so funny how we perceive ourselves. I felt like such a meathead because I was running a fitness company. I was like, oh, I need to like, and I also had some business system stuff I was selling to gym owners, and I'm thinking, I want to be respected in the business community. Anytime I got into a community, I wanted to become the leader of that community. So it wasn't enough for me to be a leader in the fitness community. And it wasn't enough for me to be the business leader in the fitness community. I wanted to be the leader in the business community at like mid-30s. That's dumb. There are some young guys that have something to teach at that age. Like Alex Hormozy, I don't know how old he is, but he's definitely somebody who he was able to achieve that at a fairly young age. Most guys that are at his level, they may be in their 50s or 60s.
Right.
I didn't have the wherewithal to realize that. And I didn't have any mentorship. And not necessarily because the mentors weren't there, it's just that I didn't listen. I wasn't a very good listener. I'm definitely somebody in my younger years, I've shifted. In my younger years, listening and taking advice from other people, I never believed anything anyone ever said. I had to see it for myself. I had to try for myself. Someone said, that's not a good idea. I'm like, we'll see. Unless it was something that was going to kill me immediately, I'd try it out. Like, And so I then started building. What I wanted was, this was crazy. So I was running Barbell Shrugged. We had a big team there. We had Barbell Business, and then we launched a software company. It was totally done for you, software as a service. We build your website all the way through all your marketing, everything for CrossFit gyms.
Huh.
You buy this, we install it, and then people just start showing up to your gym. You don't have to worry about your website anymore. You don't have to worry about emails. You don't have to worry about, you just use our system, and everyone who bought our system, their gyms grew.
Wow.
I've never had anyone go, man, I bought your system and it sucked. Everybody goes, fucking work. We were selling that for $1,000 a month. So at our peak, there was 275 gyms on that service. So I'm thinking, okay, dominate that market. But then I'm like, okay, there's 10,000 CrossFit gyms. I've only got 275 of them. And then, we'll go out and we'll expand into other fitness markets. And I'm sitting there thinking, how do I turn this into a $100 million company? So I stopped focusing on the fitness stuff as much, and I start really pouring my energy into that. And part of it was when I moved from Memphis to San Diego, I moved from like a community of people that were incredibly diverse in their backgrounds, like members of my gym and stuff, to I moved to San Diego, and then my crowd became all entrepreneurs.
Huh.
So the desire to have status in that community of, it's like, how much money are these people making? Because I want to make more than everybody else.
Was it just making more, or was it also taking home more? Were you investing in stuff at the time? Like, what was it just, like you said earlier, like, I'm just going to crush it and be the top in these different areas? What was that like?
I was in the mindset is if I just make a certain amount of money, I'll be taken care of. I didn't think about any of the details.
Got it.
Like investing, like I wanted to invest. All I did was invest in some startups. All I did was, if someone had an idea, then I had a holding company with a couple of partners. We just stroke a check.
Huh.
But it was done very poorly. It was one of those things where someone would come and go, oh, I have a business opportunity. I'd look at it. They'd say, this is, and I go, I think this is a good idea. How much do you need? Like, what's the minimum to get in, or what do you need? $25,000 check, $60,000 check. I would just go to my CFO and go, hey, can we write a $50,000 check for this right now? He'd go, I don't really think we should. And then I would pressure him. And then I never had a clear view of finances. And yet I was stroking checks to like different projects. So on top of trying to build this software company to 100 million, I also think, well, I'm going to start this thing called Barbell University. I think that all exercise science programs should be online, and we're going to create an online university. And we started building that, and I started recruiting. I had all this money coming in, and I had it going out just as fast.
Shit.
So I was either investing in projects inside of my own ecosystem, or someone would come in and go, I've got this idea. It wasn't like that was happening every month. I wasn't stroking checks every month, but every 6 months there'd be something where, we go, oh, okay, like let's throw another 50 G's at this thing that's outside of our business. And so we were holding paper, the paper of we own stock in this startup. Hopefully it'll do something, whatever. So set it and forget it type of thing. And what ended up happening is I ended up just biting it off way more than I could chew. I had so much, there was no focus. The focus was totally dispersed. And so there was like I'm 44 now, so we're talking about a decade ago. At the time, that lack of focus cost me almost everything financially.
Wow.
At the end of the day. I got too spread thin. My attention was spread too thin. The finances are spread too thin. I remember starting projects, hiring people, and then 3-4 months later having to shut the project down altogether, and then having to let them go. It's like putting that, like, they'll move. I had one person move countries.
Oh shit.
And then had to let them go shortly after. And that was really hard. From back then, firing somebody or letting somebody go was like, I had a bit of people pleaser going on, and I would hang on to people way too long, and the business would suffer paying someone's salary way longer than it needed to be. So it was really poor decision making back then. I tell people frequently that I got away with a lot.
Huh.
I got away because we were so good at a few things. We could be messy in other places, but I wasn't getting the feedback that I was screwing up because I could always fill it in with more sales. I could always just make more money. I was really good at we were really good at just, we need another $100,000. Let's go pull another $100,000 in. We could figure that out quickly. While there was just holes in the bucket on the back end, draining everywhere. And so,
I mean, how common do you think that is? At least from my perspective, obviously being in business, and then also, I've worked with you for a good number of years on the business side of stuff. For me, that looks to be a really common thread. It's when a business or a man is, the first line of thought is, I'll just make more, I'll just make more, I'll just make more. But everything else beyond that is usually not top of mind. So is that something common that you've seen? And then I'd love to see how, there's a whole, man, this is bringing up a lot, but how do you define wealth, just as like a basic foundational premise?
yeah, well, let's do the first one first.
Yeah.
So what was the first question was, do I see that often?
Is that common? Yeah, that just
incredibly common. All the pain that I've been through in that is really motivating for the consulting I do for people now. So when I'm working with a client, and usually I'm working with clients that are 10 years younger than me or below.
Right.
And I just see it. My job is to make sure they don't make the same mistakes I do, but also not just stop them from doing it, but teach them why this is not a good idea or why this is a good idea, or let's direct I'm really big on where are we directing our attention.
Yeah.
My job when I'm consulting people is to get them to a place where I'm turning them into a business owner. That's my desire for them. Is I'm not here to do your marketing. I'm going to give you a lot of resources. I'm going to give you a ton of information, knowledge, everything you need. But it's more of a wisdom position of, let's learn about why we want to implement this and what this is going to keep us from doing and how it's going to help us make better decisions. So that's one thing I'm proud of, is usually by the time I'm a year in with a client, I like to work with clients for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Which is also new, is they turn into business owners, like real business owners, not just someone who started a business and figured out how to make sales.
Yes.
But so it's incredibly common. I think that I was an extreme case because I had a lot of money, more money coming in than most guys do. We had hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in a month, and I was figuring out a way to how to burn all of it. And I remember, so we'll get into the wealth piece. There was a book that changed my life, and it's called Profit First.
Got it.
By Michael Michalowicz.
Yeah.
And now when I work with clients, it's the very first book. I go, day one, read this book, and then, I program a custom GPT with ChatGPT to help them. We run things through that. And so I remember discovering that book, and like right when it was a little too late. Like I discovered it.
It's funny how that works.
I discovered it after the mess had gotten way too crazy. And if I could go back to that moment and when I discovered that book, I would have been a lot more ruthless in my execution of the budget.
Okay.
Because what I did was, I was like, let's just adjust things slowly over time, and let's make sure that we don't cut things too fast. And I didn't realize the situation we were in. And I think it really takes years of being embedded in a financial budgeting of a company and really watching where money goes and the impacts of that. And after you see that for a while, you can see how dire the situation is. Like when you get really good at you can get really good at financial forecasting. So I remember I had someone bring their business to me about a year and a half ago. They brought their business to me and they go, I need help with this thing. I feel like they had this feeling like this is fucked up.
Okay.
But I need your help. And I go, okay, send me your books. And they were like, I don't need help with my books. I go, your books are going to tell me 90% of the story. They're like, I need help with the marketing. I need help with this. I'm like, no. The books. And it was a back and forth of show me the books.
Shit.
And I remember when I was younger, if someone asked me to show me the books, I would have been scared to show them the books.
Sure.
Too. Back in, there part of me was going, I know that I don't know the books. I'm going to show someone else, and I'm going to be embarrassed because I actually don't know what's there. Finally get a hold of the books. I look at the books, and I go, what is that? Like, there's several things. I'm like, what is that? They're like, oh, that's what we're paying so-and-so. And I'm asking them, well, what are they doing? And they tell me what and I look it up, and I go, they're getting paid double what they for that role. And then over and over again. And so where was I at? Oh, so I looked at the books and I come back after looking at the books and like, hey, these are all the changes that need to be made. They were like, well, we really just want to help with marketing.
Right.
Because sometimes when people look at what I do, they think it's just marketing. And I'm like, no, it's the full business. And I can give you marketing, but you're not going to be happy with the result and I can't do what I need to do with the marketing because the financial flow is jacked up.
Like you couldn't invest where you wanted, or there would be funds there to do what you needed to do. Got it.
Like we're going to waste money marketing if the rest of the system isn't finely tuned.
Right.
Like I can bring in more leads, but if it's not going to fucking matter at the end of the day, you're going to go out of business in 6 months.
Shoot.
If you don't make this change. This particular situation was not a traditional client. This was somebody who was in the friends and family network is all I'll say.
Okay.
Business shut down 6 months later with nothing. All money was gone. So in dire situations, I could see back and rewind back to 2017, and I would have cut 80% of the operational costs.
No shit.
I would have gone back and I would go back and just totally slash. And it's interesting when I'm advising people a lot of times, their nervous system cannot handle that conversation. So we got to take it easy.
Huh.
You got to take it easy. Like, what about this? What about this? It's I'm like navigating their nervous system in the conversation. So I'm not going to come and be like, you got to slash 80%. I come in and like help them come to their own conclusions. Basically.
Is that because you would find them going into like a fear response? It's shutting down and then.
Totally.
Okay.
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah. And I want them to get there on their own, because if they don't get there on their own, then they just become they don't learn how to be business owners. And then now I'm on calls every week with them, helping them make decisions that they should have been able to make themselves.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I'm helping them make all the decisions. And then a year or two later, I'm there. We've elevated the conversation. Now the conversation we're having is big picture strategy. How do we move these pieces in order to go from $50,000 months to $100,000 months, which is a different conversation than, what do we do about this one little piece of marketing over here?
So in the beginning, you're regulating, you're spoon feeding them so that the nervous system doesn't go out of whack, that they shut down. But then you're also really building them up to a baseline where you can make some of those larger calls and also not keep getting pulled back into the same bullshit.
Right.
Because now their level of awareness and consciousness is at the level of a business owner.
Yes.
What I'm hearing is, yes, you're a coach, but really, and I've experienced this from you as well, you're largely a mentor. Coach for sure, and really mentor, that wisdom position that so many of us need. And you bringing them up to that level, a lot more efficient in running business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I care that they're developing, because if they're not developing, then I'll get bored. I mean, part of it's selfish.
Sure.
Because if I don't care how much money someone's paying me, if the business isn't growing, then I don't want to be there. I'm not there to help people maintain their business.
Okay.
If we're not growing in some way. I have one client right now where he's had no growth for 3 months financially, but we have been building all these systems in the background. We are intentionally not growing financially, and then we're going to launch something new, and you know, you can't predict the future 100%, but I think it'll double his revenue. So you take 3 months off from doing that while you're rejiggering some stuff in the background. New thing comes out, improves some of the holes that were in the game. So we're like basically shoring up a hole. Like retention is low for this particular client. We're going, okay, how do we get retention from 5 months to 12 months? Like the goal is, how do we get 100% retention for the first year?
Okay.
And because I know it can be done, I've seen it. And so we do that, then the income it'll compound for years to come instead of just being like, how much money can we make this month? So yeah, and I care that like they don't have to be developing in finances the whole time, but if we're developing somewhere in the business the whole time, that's interesting to me.
I mean, I would imagine too, that piece right there that too does take coaching and nervous system regulation, because the willingness to take one step back so that you could take 3 steps forward is really what I'm hearing with this client. Like that also, the instant gratification, or, you know, the income's not coming in these next 3 months, like that also takes its own regulation and awareness. And yeah.
It's so interesting because what'll happen is, especially if I've been working with somebody for longer than 6 months, what'll happen during that 6 months is, well, I heard so-and-so influencer in the business space say this. I'm like, that's not the level you're at. I have to remind them that that's a different game. They're talking to somebody else. There are levels to this game, and sometimes people listen to somebody who's got a message for a level they're not at. So like all this advice is good if you're at the level that they're talking to. Like Gary Vaynerchuk for the longest time had terrible advice for me. Because he was talking to the 22-year-old in his mom's basement, was trying to figure out his life. I'd already built something. I don't need to listen to Gary Vaynerchuk. I still don't. He's always talking to the younger generation. Like his advice is not good for me. For a 25 to 30-year-old, listen to Gary V. He knows what he's talking about. Same with Alex Hormozy. Like I study him for his marketing stuff. When it comes to how to live your life, not the guy for me. Like I think I'm older than him. Like I've been through that phase that he's in. He's crushing the phase that he's in. Don't get me wrong. If you're a younger guy and you want to make a bunch of money, he's got really good advice if your nervous system can handle it. Most people can't. That's why there's for every 1,000 people trying to implement these systems that he put together, there's 1 or 2 that are going to make $1 million.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So going back to now, how would you define wealth?
For me, it was funny. I did Christina Weiss's program back 4 years ago, which I know you've done.
Huge fan.
And the thing that I took from her program, anytime I do any program, all I got to do is get one thing out of it. I got many things out of it, but there was one thing that really stuck with me, that this light bulb went off. And it was my definition of wealth. And she has her definition of wealth. And I pretty much adopted what she was saying in there. But I walked away from that program 4 years ago and I go, oh, I now know what wealth is. And that, for me, my wealth, my number, there's a number associated with this. And I go, I desire to live, we'll just call it, in today's numbers, $500,000 a year lifestyle.
Okay.
Like $500,000 a year puts me in this really sweet spot. I don't need, that's a lot. It's a lot for most people, or like $500,000. But that allows me to travel. It allows me to do all the things that I want to do without feeling any pressure, any financial pressure, right? And so how much money do I need invested in revenue producing assets? So assets that produce revenue. There's no such thing as passive revenue, but there is revenue that's high leverage activity. So if I invest in a bunch of real estate, it's not passive if I ever have to check on it.
Got it.
Right? I have to engage in some meetings. I have to keep an eye on it. I need to be watching the markets. There's no such thing as passive. I think people have this dream. that's going to be the case. And the more like quote unquote passive or high leverage it is, your returns are probably going to be a little bit lower. So you got to figure out, if you want to be as passive as possible, you throw in a savings account and get 2% interest. And it's not going to keep up with inflation. 8% is not going to keep up with inflation, because inflation, the way it's reported, is total bullshit. If you're not getting more than 10% on your returns, you're treading water. And so I look for things that are like more in the 15 to 20%.
Okay.
But that's why I say it's not really passive, because I'm not gonna be able to just hand someone a check and then never think about it again. I'm gonna have to check in on it, maybe be in some type of advisory role with what's happening or whatever it is. So the word that I play with in regard to wealth is leverage, not passive. I think passive is it's a pipe dream that no one's ever going to realize. Like Warren Buffett isn't passive.
Right.
He's super high leverage, spends most of his time reading and then making a few decisions, a quarter. Still not passive, right? And so the greatest investor of all time. So for me, I know, okay, if I want $500,000 a year in passive revenue, then I probably conservatively, high leverage revenue, $10 million in assets. And so for me, that'd be wealth, financial wealth. We could talk about wealth, wealth of your life and all that. But if I'm only talking about finances, which I think is what a lot of people care about when they hear that word, is if I have $10 million in assets that are producing revenue that require a small amount of energy from me, then that's wealth. So that's my number. And it's such a great frame to hold, because there's so many different ways to accumulate $10 million in assets. There's like the very linear path that a lot of people are taught, which is take a percentage of the money you make and invest it in things that are really safe over a long period of time. That works. Now, Dave Ramsey crowd, right? And that advice is really great for people on fixed incomes.
Okay.
Or if they have a job. They have a job, you get a raise, you get 5% raise, which is a lot for a raise a lot of times, which again, not keeping up with inflation. And we can get in a larger economic conversation, but like you either need to be an owner of your own business, or you need to be if you want to build wealth, you either have to be this is my belief. You need to be the business owner in charge, or you need to be a part of a business that's small and agile and innovative. If you're not doing that, then you may be, and you have a really high income. Say you have $500,000 income. I have a friend, he's got a job. I don't know exactly what he's making, but I kind of got an idea. And he could shave off a couple $100,000 a year and be putting it into something. He might be able to achieve, good retirement wealth status by the time he's 60. But that's not the game that's interesting to me. So that's one way it could be done. And it's very conservative. And for most people's nervous systems, that would work if they could consistently do it. But economics doesn't really pan out for most people in that case. That's, to me, the riskiest way to invest. Even though from most people's perspective, because you have the least control over it. This is a key thing, is people call things that are risky that aren't risky at all. And so they have conflated the words risk and responsibility. And so people will say, owning your own business is risky. And I go, from my perspective, it's the least risky thing I could do. One of the most risky things you can do is have a job, because someone else sees the number, someone else is in control of everything. And at any moment, at any time, you could get fired.
Right.
How risky is that? If you own your own business and you know your numbers, you'll know months and months ahead of time before you have any financial trouble. The difference is the level of responsibility of a business owner is so much higher. It's not risky. The problem with using the word risky is immediately the screen in their mind turns off and their ability to see a vision of the future. It's just risky. I'm not going to think about it. Once something's labeled as risky and I'm not a risk taker, I don't think about it. I've done this with a lot of people. All right, let's shift this word risk and let's talk about responsibility. Do you want to be responsible for your finances? Do you want to be responsible for where the money comes from? Do you want to be, that's being a business owner. Being a business owner makes you responsible for the finances, the marketing, the fulfillment. You become much more responsible in a heartbeat the moment you become a business owner. So to me, being a business owner is the highest level of responsibility for your finances. And it's the quickest way to wealth. So as a business owner, I've now developed myself, because also investing in yourself is the only sure thing. If you train yourself to be a good marketer, if you train yourself to be a good copywriter, salesperson, you get good at coaching, you get good at fulfilling on products, you get to know supply chain logistics. Having that knowledge is the safest investment you can make. Because if you can always be valuable, if you stay learning. I think a lot of people get lazy and they want the luxury to not have to learn new things. And they want to just sit on the beach drinking pina coladas. It's kind of like, I think where a lot of people unconsciously, I don't think that's consciously going on. Unconsciously, they think about retirement as a resort somewhere. And so if you can learn these skills and always be valuable, now I've gotten to the point where I've invested in my skills for so long that I've become incredibly valuable. I have a lot of leverage, so I can have a handful of clients and get paid well. And then I also have companies, because I understand business inside and out in a couple different industries. I understand technology, I understand software, I understand fitness, I understand health. Now I become an advisor. I get advisory roles in these different companies. I just had someone offer me an advisory role yesterday. I got offered 2 advisory roles yesterday. One in a nonprofit, which I'm already on one nonprofit. I got offered an advisory role for a new supplement company, and I have an advisory role in a peptide company right now. So these advisory roles come with equity. So it's, do you want money or do you want equity, or do you want a mix of the two? And I go, I'll take the money later. I'll take the equity.
Okay.
So depending on the business. So I look at the business and go, this business, I think it's going to be worth $4 billion in the next 3 years. And I'm getting in at the ground level. I'll advise during the startup phase. I'm going to help get this thing off the ground. It's going to cost me a few hours a week. That's high leverage.
Yeah.
You only need one of those to get that $10 million, right? So now I'm thinking, how do I get to $10 million in assets? It's not shaving 20% of my monthly income and putting in savings somewhere or investing it, which I do that as well. Not every month, but when money's high, put in crypto. Some of this stuff sounds risky, but I don't believe in our current economy is going to last for the next 20 years. It's just not going to. That's my core belief. And if anyone studies investing very long, I think they come to similar conclusions. And so one is diversifying into currencies of the future. That's the safe investment. To me, that's the Bitcoin is gold.
Okay.
It's the new gold. And we know that it's a true scarce resource. Whereas gold, they could find a new mine, and we actually don't know how much gold there is. So I do that, and then I look for companies where I can add value. So that's my position. That's like my strategy, because I've spent time doing this. This is a strategy I could not have put in place 10 years ago. I wasn't knowledgeable enough. I didn't have the wisdom. Companies weren't coming to me and going, "Come advise us." I had a couple of those, but the level of businesses that approach me now for advisory and in exchange for equity, it's a bit of a different game going on now.
Right.
And that comes from having experience. And so I think it's important for people to identify what that wealth number is. Like I want to,
That good life number, right?
that good life number.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, $500,000, that's going to require $10 million in assets to maintain that, because that should spit off, at least 5% above inflation. So I'm looking for things that are going to give me a 10 to 15, 10 to 20% return, so that, because I have to always adjust for inflation as well. For most people, like, this is very complex, what I'm talking about right now. This is not, I doubt most people are going to listen to this and go, oh, I know exactly what to do. But what I'm painting a picture of, what I think is more important in this conversation is that whatever path you imagine is going to get you to where you want to go, you should definitely be taking those linear steps on that path, but also be tracking for everything, like developing yourself in a way that, like, my strategy that's going to work for me isn't going to work for other people.
Right.
Someone listening to this, they're going to go, actually see where that strategy works for me, or I could see how I could get to the place where I'm implementing Mike's strategy. But if you keep developing yourself, you're programming your mind to be tracking for, how do I accumulate this much in assets? Then you start seeing other options. Some people get into real estate. I did a little bit of real estate for a while and then found out it wasn't for me. It was how I can accumulate all of these properties, and then I can borrow money to purchase them, and then I can sell them and owner finance them. And I had this whole system I was using, and it was a system that somebody taught me. I didn't make it up, and it works. But I got into it, and I got a handful of deals into it, and I realized that there's way more administrative load here than I prefer. That's not my gift.
Right.
In fact, if I take personality tests in business, it's like, don't do administrative shit ever. Like, it's the lowest scoring thing. But if somebody scores really high on that, then getting into real estate could be a really great thing for them, because there's a lot of administrative stuff happening there. And so you got to figure out, like, that could be a way in. Like, you could build wealth with none of your own money. You could go in, get creative in deal making in real estate, borrow money in order to get there, and not in a way that leverages you, in a really safe way, where, like, if the deal goes bad, you can walk away and you're good. So there's all these, you have to be entrepreneurial. You have to be, even in the real estate thing, you have to become a business owner. You have to own a real estate business that does investing. And so there's all these different paths that can get you to those assets. And so when I came to that, that's one reason I got into real estate, is because when I figured out what that number was, I started scanning the horizon for what are all the different and easiest ways to accumulate $10 million in assets that are revenue generating. And so, over several years of being in that investigation, I go, okay, this is where my highest leverage is at. And so this is how I'm involved in, right now, if I were to count it up, probably involved in like 8 different companies.
Whoa.
8 or 9 different companies in
Wow.
some capacity. I don't even have to meet with all of them every week. Some weeks I'm on calls with them for several hours. Some week, a month goes by, I don't talk to them. So there's different things going on. Some of them I own myself. Some of them I own like a majority stake in. Some of them I own like a very small percentage of, but they have the potential to be $1 billion or something like that. So I think at the end of this whole, the lesson here is, like, you got to really know yourself and where you're at in the world and how you can generate that wealth. But I think if anybody who finds that target and starts putting their mind there, and then they're also in the process of understanding themselves and how they operate in the world, they'll start finding that leverage.
I think you spoke to it a bit already, but as we had to close the show, I'd love to hear, you're in a different phase of life as most, and I think that's a huge asset, because you are now a wisdom teacher, right, off of your life experience. If you've got a guy, whether he's got a young family or wants to have a family, he's in his 30s, what would you give him as, if you could say, distill it down to what's one important thing that you would advise him on to creating wealth in terms of that good life number? So yeah, man in his 30s, young family or aspirations, what would you suggest?
The first thing you have to do is get freedom of time.
Okay.
Freedom of time is number one. And the way that you get freedom of time is, you either got to be a freelancer or you've got to own your own business. A freelancer technically owns their own business, but they do like one task for other businesses. You need to get to a place where you can make $150,000 a year, depending on where you live. It's going to vary a bit, but live a modest lifestyle. Get your lifestyle to where it's modest, where you can get by with $150,000, $200,000 a year.
Okay.
And then cap yourself there. And then create a business that requires you to work 20 hours a week to meet that. And then spend the rest of your time learning and developing and exploring other things. This is advice that probably, I think it would have worked at any time in history, but I think it's the most important time in history right now because things are evolving and moving so fast. You have to spend time in research and what's going on in the world, and you need to spend time learning about yourself. And so get a business to where it's doing that. Sometimes when you get the business to doing that, then you spend that extra 20 hours of, your work week figuring out how to create more efficiencies in that business to make it more valuable. Like if you really love that, then you're going to use that time to learn how to improve that and create efficiencies to where that then holds a lot of the value. Free up your time to where you get to choose when you wake up, get to choose when you're working. We were talking about this yesterday. Like I stack all my meetings on Monday and Tuesday in a like 4 to 5 hour range. And so I've got 2 days in a row where I'm meeting 4 or 5 hours a day, which takes a lot of presence. So it takes a lot out of me. But then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are mine. And I can either be working on my business, not in it. I'm working on my business. It's so funny. I saw another business influencer saying almost the same fucking thing. He stacks everything on Monday, Tuesday. I was like, well, I came to the same conclusion. That guy's pretty fucking smart. Anyone who agrees with me is a genius. But if you can free that time up and then you can play, it's important to be in that playful energy of what am I interested in right now? Like I spent this last year, I worked probably like on average 3 or 4 hours a day. And I spent the rest of the time in learning AI.
Whoa.
And I forget how good I am at using AI tools until I start talking to other business owners and I ask them how they're using AI. And I go, oh my God, you have no idea what you're doing. So I'm learning about AI. I'm listening to podcasts of investors, people who are building the AI. I'm listening to people who are hedge fund managers. I'm listening to people who have a global view of what's going on. And I go, the more I pay attention, I go, oh, everything in the next 5 to 10 years. In the next 5 years, things are going to change dramatically. In 10 years, our lives are going to be unrecognizable. Money may not even be a thing in 10 years. May not, but it may. So you really, that additional time that you buy yourself, you buy all that time back and you invest your high quality energy into things you love, you're going to become very agile and adaptable. And that's going to be the number one skill is how adaptable. And part of that is your nervous system you need to be able to handle new information and changes without freaking out. So you got to tune your nervous system and your body to be adaptable. You got to learn how business works to be adaptable. There's a lot to learn here, which you should be excited about because you can do it. There's no oppression here. Zero oppression. No one's physically forcing you to do anything or not do anything. It is all on you. So this is the greatest time in history to be able to design a life that you desire. But most people, the only thing holding them back is they don't believe that it's possible for them. They just stay focused on the things on why their life isn't the way they want it to be. Or they focus on, well, so-and-so's got this, and that's what made it available for them. So, yeah, I mean, I grew up in like a blue-collar home, construction, barely making it by all the time. And I was homeschooled. I wasn't sent to the best schools. I mean, I think being homeschooled is actually an advantage. If you look at my life on paper, the first 30 years of my life, it's not extraordinary. There's a lot of things that I put myself out there a lot. There's a lot of things that I did. I became a business owner in my 20s. There's a lot of things I did that were, some people might consider to be extraordinary, but I didn't have any quote unquote advantages that some people may be able to point at. And so most of what I've been able to set myself up for has been through just smashing through beliefs of being inadequate, or, I used to believe that I was stupid. I used to believe that I'd be, that there's no way I'd ever make $1 million. Like that it wasn't even a thing in my mind that would be possible. And then I remember making $1 million and going like, what the fuck happened? This is crazy. I wasn't even trying to do it. So you really got to work with your beliefs in this. The only thing holding anyone back in America and most of the Western world is just your beliefs. If you can work with those and work with your nervous system, you can position yourself to build real wealth. That's the only thing holding you back. And it may take 5-10 years. And in 5-10 years, it might not matter. But if you invest in yourself over the next 5 to 10 years, no matter what the world looks like, you're going to be in an advantage. The people who are going to be at a disadvantage in 10 years are the people who just try to keep things the same, and they're only thinking about how to make money this week, and they haven't positioned themselves. I'll quote Alex Hormozy. He said, it's never been easier to build a business. The barrier to entry to building a business has never been lower. The barrier to entry to making $1 million has never been lower. And the amount of distraction that's available has never been higher. And that's learning how to regulate your nervous system and recognize and be in your awareness and realize, when am I getting distracted, and how do I bring my focus back to what's actually important?
Fuck yeah, man. That ability to trade focus and attention in a time where everything's so dispersed and we're pulled in a million different directions and there's energy leaks at all quarters. Dude, super solid conversation, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, dude. I wish we could go for so much longer. This has been fire, Mike. I appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Super fun.